Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. The agenda tonight will focus mainly on warrant articles, and I'm happy to report from our point of view that these are the last batch of warrant articles that we, as selectmen, have to approve before sending them on to the advisory committee. And the reason for our meeting tonight is to give the advisory committee, our partners in this effort, an opportunity and more time to deal with the many articles that they have to address. Therefore, once we finish this meeting this evening, I'm pleased to announce to my colleagues that we will not have to meet on Thursday as originally planned, because we will have done the work we need to do. So our next meeting after this one would be on March 20th. The agenda for this evening is, I'm going to take the liberty of just adjusting it a little bit. It's been on there. We have an employment contract with our fire chief, whom was here a minute ago. There he is. Oh, you moved to the right. Holy smokes. My apologies, Mark. We have a contract with our fire chief that we'd like to get approved. And then we have an article that concerns the fire chief. We discussed that last week, and at the request of Selectman Lauder, she wanted to hear the chief's opinion directly on its proposal. Then there are two issues concerning town meeting votes, the procedure, and a second article dealing with the electronic voting issue. After that, then we have a public safety parcel on Whiting Street, and then Article KK, which deals with the water study acquisition feasibility continuation. So with that as the agenda, I'd like to take this opportunity to invite Chief Duff to come and take a seat. Mark? He is dressed in his finery, and we welcome you. This is somewhat of a mixed occasion for me. I don't know, as my term comes to an end, but I've had the extreme pleasure of not only working with Mark over the last 6 years, but more importantly, getting his good advice, not only on the various situations and emergencies that he's had to deal with, but I will tell you this, he is the best darn weather forecaster in the town. And as you may know, when we enter serious weather situations, there's a lot of upfront work that goes in as to what we should or shouldn't be doing and getting preparation for it. And the person who is at the center of that effort is Mark Duff. And I'll date myself. Some of you may remember a character, and he was a character, named Uncle Weatherby. He was a New York character on the weather forecast for 100 years. Not quite as long as your service here, Mark, but he was someone we all relied to as I was growing up, and just as you have been so gracious in helping us get through this. So
Thank you.
I just want to commend you for all that good work. So with that, we have had a contract with Mark that we've engaged, and that maybe you care to comment on it?
Well, only that, as I've stated in numerous occasions, I always feel that serving as a fire chief is a privilege and not a right. And I've had the privilege to serve as your chief for the last 9 years. And thankfully, through your efforts, you're going to allow me to continue that for another period of time, which I'm sure you'll want to announce yourself, Bruce. But I thank you for that. I thank you for the support that this board and Ted has given me, and the residents of the community, and previous boards, and I sincerely thank you for showing me that support. And for the record, me and Bruce have worked together for 6 years, but Bruce has always managed to get the last word in.
And I'm about to continue that. I would not want to mislead or misrepresent that relationship. I'll open the floor to my colleagues, Mr. Healy or Irma. Do you have some?
Go ahead, Paul. You go first.
Okay, thank you. Mark and I
have known each other for a long time. As a matter of fact, in the early 70s, we were coworkers.
Yes, I was hoping you wouldn't mention that.
And later, when I wore the uniform of the Hingham Police, we had many occasions to work together on calls. Thoroughly have enjoyed knowing and working with the chief at all levels of his career. To say that you're looking at a dedicated firefighter is an understatement. And it's something that you see both as to how he's lived his career and his life as a resident of this town. We're extraordinarily fortunate to have a man of this caliber leading our fire department. So thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Good. Irma?
Chief, it's been a pleasure. First friendship for, 40 years? You were one of the first people I think we met when we came here. So maybe you can say it's because of you we came here. Maybe not.
I remember driving nails in your house
I
when
know.
we were constructing it, so.
That's amazing. That is amazing. But I've been under the chief's command as part of the CERT team when he had us with exercises, doing them, which was a lot of fun, and we learned an awful lot, and hopefully never have to put to use most of that knowledge, but we've got it. So it's a privilege, and thankful that the contract will continue for a while.
Thank you. Hingham's a great place to live in, it's a great place to work, and it's a great place to be employed. It's just it's a wonderful community. We have a relationship, all department heads, I always plug the department heads, there's a relationship between the Hingham department heads, cooperation at all levels that exists in Hingham that just doesn't exist in other communities. Certainly not to the degree that does in Hingham, and in some communities there's no relationship at all. So, and that's again through the leadership of the board that just demands it in one way, but everybody respects each other, and we're fortunate that we have that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the comments of my colleagues, and more importantly, the comments of the chief. The contract is a one-year contract.
Through June 30th, 2015, correct?
2015, which would be another way of saying that this will be Chief's retirement announcement. Over the next year or so, the process will begin when I leave the board, I'm sure, but I think we announced that with gratitude. And I want to say something else. There's a spouse involved in this, and she came up to me, and I hope you can keep the promise I made on your behalf, as you know. She rode in the back of a very nice convertible in the last 4th of July parade, as I recall, and she really liked it. So I don't know. I'm making a public plea for you to take a look at it anyway. And so, Jerry, we thank you more importantly for all the support that you've given. Those of us who have spouses in this world know that these kind of jobs don't happen without them. And
I think Douglas MacArthur once said, a general's wife is a general's general. That was a Shakespeare quote, and that's certainly the case with our relationship.
That is no question about that. So we thank you publicly, Jerry, for all the good work that you've done. So I'd like to have one of you make a motion to sign if you would, Irma.
Make a motion to sign an employment contract with the fire chief, Mark Duff.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
Don't go. Last week, we mentioned, and I don't like the terminology that is used on this, but it doesn't really convey. We have had a discussion, just to recap it from last week, as to the authority and appointing powers of the leadership in both the police and the fire department. And here in Hingham, we have a split process. The police chief makes his recommendations and deliberations, and then he brings them forward to the Board of Selectmen for approval for promotions and for hiring. In addition, the fire chief, on the other hand, has that sole authority. And we believe when we're in the process of potentially making a transition at this point in time, that it might be a good time for the town to reconsider that relationship and put them both on the same level. So there is an article that's going forth this year which changes Massachusetts General Law 42A in July of 2015 would be that. So some people, particularly Selectman Lauder, made the suggestion that we'd like to hear the chief's opinion on that article before we voted it. So I'd like to give the floor to you if you...
Absolutely. To say that I don't have mixed emotions on this would be an understatement, especially after working under one set of rules for almost 40 years, over 40 years. And but I do see the board's point in respect to where they're going with it. I think things changed probably 20 years ago with the coming on board of a town administrator who, and don't take this the wrong way, but the town administrators look at what's going on in the community at the 10,000-foot level every day. We have had wonderful boards in the past, as I've said in the past, but boards before a town administrator and the board, became a board didn't have that opportunity. Now with the town administrator, things have changed. So I do have mixed emotions about it. Needless to say, one law, what we know as the strong chiefs law, is extremely strong. The alternate is, I think, very weak. I wish there was something in the middle, but there isn't. Having said that, I want the next chief to come in here to be totally comfortable in making changes, if he feels comfortable doing that, in not making changes or adding his own twist to however he sees the fire department should be run. But I want him to do that for the right reasons. And if he doesn't do that for the right reasons, under the strong chiefs law, your hands are tied. And I don't want that to happen. Reluctantly, I would say that probably moving toward the alternative is not a bad move for the community. But again, I'm not sure I'll ever really settle it in my mind. If you have a chief that's there to be the fire chief and do the job correctly, and he's got the hearts and souls of the community and the taxpayers in his best interest, then the strong chief's law is a strong ally for him. But if he doesn't, then it's a detriment to the community. I've worked for under both circumstances, and the majority of the time the chiefs have been very good about it, but I don't know what else I can say, Bruce. I mean, if you want to...
No, I don't know. Irma, you raised the issue, so...
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. Do you see any downside to this?
In fairness, I wasn't, just so you know, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't aware that I was going to be speaking to this issue until about 4:30 today, so I knew I was coming here, but...
Mark, one of the downsides you mentioned to me, I don't know if I can share this with you, but it will potentially affect how candidates view the hiring process. There's less authority with the position under 48 Section 42A versus the current environment that Mark has. Mark has complete discretion for all hiring, all terminations, and all promotions. And that could potentially be an issue. I think it would be somewhat mitigated by the fact that the salary is very competitive in the region. And I think you're seeing a trend of more of these than less of these in the region as we start shifting away from the way it was done 50 years and 100 years ago.
It was originally, to give you the background on it, it was originally, I believe the town adopted it in the early 1940s, and it was designed to eliminate political patronage. And if you want to, maybe Paul has done this, if you want to read a great book about what that's all about, read a book that's available down at Town Hall called Old Nantasket. in
I've read
dealing with political patronage. And that's what the strong chiefs law was designed to prevent. Fire chief could come in, he could make his decisions, hopefully they were the right ones. They weren't influenced by somebody that was trying to get curry favor. He wasn't influenced by what went on with the advisory committee or any of the committees. He made the decisions based on what he felt was good sound judgment. So that's why that was incorporated. But again, with the advent of the town administrator, I think a lot of that's changed. It was not uncommon 20, 25, 30 years ago for the fire chief to get up at every town meeting and either take a position contrary to recommendations of the advisory committee. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, the chief won out. And that doesn't happen anymore because, again, we have a town administrator that's balancing things, I think, a lot better than used to happen. But that was the original intent of the law. That was 70 years ago. Things have changed since then. And again, I would hang my hat on that if a chief comes in and I want to make the changes if he decides to for the right reasons. And you people need to have the power to say, no, that's not the way we want to go with this. And with the 42A, it puts you in a much better position to do that.
Thanks, Steph.
Thank you.
I don't know if that was a help or not.
No, I think it was, in my opinion. Paul, any comments?
Sure. I remember when I was a teenager, I worked at Charlie Cushion's gas station up in the center, and Albert Kimball was a regular customer there. And Chief Kimball is a legend, I believe, in the Hingham Fire Department annals. Very strong man. I saw many chiefs follow in his place. I worked for a strong chief, myself in police work. I believe that the government that we have in this town at this point has evolved to the point where this is appropriate to make this change. We work very well with both Chief Duff and Chief Perrano, and I think that the ability to have an input into the succession, the leadership development leads to greater accountability when those important decisions, such as the one that we're going to be called to make shortly, require us to do. This isn't a threatening thing because I believe that we work in consensus with what the chief sees as the needs of the department, as well as Chief Perrano. So I don't see this as a negative thing. I think that the fire chief of earlier times had the call fire, brought in more of the community, had to really have that kind of iron command control. That has long since, well, not long since, but that it's been away for a while.
Good point. Yes, good point.
So, you know, it's a different dynamic in place now. You know, the ultimate mission remains the same. That's to protect the lives and safety of the public and put out the fires. You know, Chief has come down and put out a few fires at my house, so I have firsthand experience. So I think that this is a good step in the right direction. And I can understand where you might kind of, okay, that's what you want to do going forward, because you've come from the world where, you know, you've been the bottom line, but where we work collectively, collegially, and I think that spans several different selectmen administrations, this is something that can work very well here for a successful fire department and a successful firefighting mission going forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you both for that. Are there any comments from the public?
If I may,
Please.
I think we're blessed.
Would you tell the folks at home, please, would you?
I think we're blessed by the quality of the public servants.
Oh,
It's
tell
just-
us, yeah, it's on, Joe, no, just tell us who you are. Just tell us. Not
Carlton
everybody- We know
Allen
who you are.
Chambers.
Thank you.
I live at the Lincoln School Apartments. I think we're blessed with the quality of the public servants we have, and we have been for years. And this week, I think we saw a great act of bravery by one of our men in blue policemen in what had to be an awful, awful emotional experience for him and the others on the road Monday night. And I just wanted to recall to you, a little over 25 years ago, Mark responded as a firefighter to what is now the Pride Building and went in at great risk and got blown right out the windows when the oil tank exploded. He's paid a price, and because of his personal bravery, and he's running a department where it is not unusual to hear it said in the morning meeting, let's go out there and save lives, and they do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Al. That was very, very gracious of you. Any other comments? All right, there being none, Mr. Healy?
I also think, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to hear the opinion of the board. I wanted to know why the board was behind this, so this has been helpful to me, too. I needed to hear from you people why you thought this is a good idea for the town, so that will influence my future opinions. But thank you very much.
No, we wanted to hear it, and I think what I've seen in my 6 years is in the collaborative efforts between the police and fire chiefs, the town administrator, and the board. And it has rarely been the case, although there have been a few, where we may have disagreed over an issue or two.
I can't remember any.
Yeah, no,
Well said.
well said. Thank you. Thank you for pulling my neck out of that one.
Was that the concussion you got when you got blown out the
Oh,
window?
boy. Well, I will tell you, when you hear the saying, you see your life before your eyes, that particular night, I did see my life before my eyes, and my wife was pregnant, and during the course of that event, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail, I said to myself, I'm not going to get out of this. And fortunately, we did, but it was a very scary night. It really was.
Well, we're happy that that event turned out the way it is.
But the good side of that, and I want to dominate the meeting tonight, the good side of that was that I learned a good lesson there tonight, and it changed my command philosophy significantly after that happening. When a fire chief makes a decision to send crews into burning buildings or into hazardous materials situations or an active shooter situation or what happened the other night, because the fire department played a role in that incident that Mr. Chambers has referred to. That's a huge decision that you have to make, and we face those decisions every day. And so it changed my philosophy in firefighting significantly to the better. So I learned a lot that night in January of 1987, I believe it was. Thank you.
All right. Well, we have to make the vote first. You're not off the hook yet. So, Paul, would you?
Sure. I'll make a motion to recommend that the town revoke its prior acceptance of General Law, Chapter 48, Section 42, and its place accept Chapter 48, Section 42A of the Mass General Laws to be effective July 1, 2015, which would provide for the appointment of the fire chief and other officers and firemen by the Board of Selectmen, and which would place the regulation and governing of the fire department under the control of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And again, Mark, our sincere appreciation for all the good work that you do for the town of.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want you to know that I'm still the boss.
I know. I know. For 52 days. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Okay.
Nice work, Mark.
Nice.
Thanks, Steph.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is deals with the electronic voting as put forth by the Government Study Committee and an amended Government Study Committee led by, I don't see Andy here this evening, that causes two changes, one in the procedures for town meeting and then one to put a pilot program forward. Now, we've heard all the arguments. I think you all have received emails from Andy concerning the discussions. We had a couple of questions, and he answered those questions in terms of the impact on the school for the introduction of electronic voting, if that were to happen, and it appears that it could work that way. So unless the committee has some new information, I'd be willing to hear that if you have something you'd like to bring to our attention. Go ahead. Just.
Thank you for having us here, Mr. Chairman, Board. My name is Eric Haskell. I'm a member of the Committee to Study Electronic Voting. With me is my colleague Dyke Crane, who's also a member of the committee. And we have two new pieces of information that we want to make the board aware of. First is the town of Duxbury, I think we mentioned earlier, was in the process of adopting this technology, and Dyke had the opportunity to attend Duxbury's town meeting this past Saturday, and can say a few words about it.
Yes, Dyke Crane, member of the Voter Study Committee. I did attend the morning session of the Duxbury Town meeting along with Charlie Clapp and Michael Puzo. And the system was used on a test basis down there. They had not changed their rules of order or bylaw, I don't know which applied there, so they had to take a test vote with the electronic system and then a regular vote. And that was kind of awkward and delayed it a little bit, but and this is one reason why we are bringing Article EE to allow the moderator the option of three choices of voting: voice vote, counted vote, or e-voting. And we feel important before any actual equipment is brought in the town meeting to be tried out, that the bylaw be changed. And the committee still has a lot of work to do, but we would like to move forward. One of the features of voting electronically is privacy of the vote. There was one voice vote that was taken where when the moderator called for no votes, we could hear one voice. With the electronic voting, there were 19 no votes. So people do appreciate the privacy that the system gave them that day. There were no technical issues that we could see Saturday morning. There was one counted vote that was taken. They first took it by the electronic. The moderator did not announce the results. And then he took the hand-counted vote by tellers in the audience. The hand-counted vote took 15 minutes. The electronic voting, half a minute. And when the results were announced, they came fairly close to each other. And so I think those three things came out Saturday morning from what we saw. We did not stay Saturday afternoon, but I know they did more on Saturday afternoon, and the session did not finish until last night. And at the end of the warrant, there was an article whether to adopt electronic voting or not, and I'm not aware of the results of that at this point. Okay. Thank you. All right, thank you. Eric?
And the second new piece of information that we want to bring to the board's attention is since we last met with the board last month, we've been in touch with some additional vendors in the nature of getting a sense of their products and services, what they offer, and also getting back of the envelope cost figures. I think we had a couple numbers that we had mentioned at the last meeting in terms of cost, and what we've gotten back from the other vendors hasn't necessarily been consistent with that. For instance, the one vendor who we've had the most contact with, who made a demonstration for us earlier this year, Option Technologies, came back with a new, again, non-binding ballpark figure of a little north of $29,000 for the first day, plus an additional fee for any additional days of town meeting. That's assuming a very robustly attended town meeting with about 2,000 voters in attendance. The fewer voters who attend the town meeting, the fewer devices they need, the fewer staff people they need to administer their technology, and the price goes down. We heard from another outfit out of New Jersey called IML, well. As I understand, they were one of the companies that responded to Duxbury's RFP last year. They came back in about the same ballpark. We heard from a company called Meridia out of Pennsylvania, suburban Philadelphia. They came back with a number for the first day in the mid-teens rather than the high 20s. And we've also been in touch with a fourth vendor, Turning Technologies out of Ohio, who haven't been able to furnish back-of-the-envelope numbers yet, but they're sending a gentleman to meet with us later this month to make a demonstration, and they're clearly interested in the opportunity for the business here. So I think what this goes to show, again, this is non-binding, and these aren't necessarily apples-to-apples comparisons because different vendors are going to offer technology that differs in slightly different ways, and part of our task as the committee will be to really nail down precisely what specifications we need and how to best meet that with a particular vendor. But I think this does go to show, that there's a market for this. There is a competitive market with multiple vendors, and the price is something that's still subject to further investigation and negotiation.
Okay, thank you for that. Right.
Wanted to add one more thing. Option Technology now has given us a range of pricing in a tiered situation, going from 2,000 on down to 500. And the price declines as it goes down. They have also opened an office here in Massachusetts now for all their equipment, and so they are in the process of becoming a specialist in town meetings in Massachusetts.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Betty, I understand you had some conversations with the town of Wayland, was it?
Yes, I did speak to the assistant town administrator in Wayland. I am unaware of which vendor they're using, but he did tell me that they had to commit quite a while in advance as to the number of devices they would need for a given town meeting. And he had come up with a number and then upped it, and the day of town meeting, it turned out that they made it by one device, that if 2 more people had shown up, they would have been in trouble. So it's one of the difficulties is to plan ahead as far
Plan
as...
ahead on the number, okay. And the price, he had different numbers, I thought you
Well,
mentioned.
his numbers, but that's the old pricing, and I gave you
I just saw this
an email
tonight.
I got this evening from Michael Puzo with the new pricing, so.
Okay, very good, thank you for that. Paul, any questions or comments?
How long do the town meetings in Duxbury typically go for?
Duxbury holds its town meeting on a Saturday. As I understand from speaking with their moderator at a demonstration a couple months ago, they try to wrap them up in one day with a morning and an afternoon session, but occasionally it will take more than one day.
I noticed that the chart, which is excellent, you prepared it, I believe, indicates that there's a number of these meetings that exceed 2,000. What's the cost of these machines if there's 2,500 people?
We haven't investigated to the point of nailing down specific numbers with vendors. However, the numbers that I mentioned a moment ago from those 3 vendors who have given us ballpark estimates, like I mentioned, they weren't apples to apples. For instance, Option Technologies gave us that estimated price, assuming 2,000 voters. I believe one of the other vendors, I think it was IML, gave us that price estimating 3,000 voters and 3,000 devices. So I think those give a sense of the ballpark and the range, but we don't have specific numbers at this point.
Your memo indicates that there are towns that have tried it and ultimately rejected it. Can you elaborate as to why that occurred?
Westwood decided not to do it, but I do not know the reasoning behind it.
What about the other town that you identified in the memo?
What was the other?
Amherst, I believe.
I don't know the answer on that.
Did the town of Duxbury elect to do the electronic voting going forward?
Irma?
I applaud your work because I'm very supportive of this, especially as we go forward, and like it or not, in the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to have significant borrowing. And we do have 2 schools that are going to need attention. I thank you for coming up with the potential numbers for a trial. And as Judy, our last journey through government study, it's nice to see these trials are coming down, because as the technology matures and as more people jump on this, they of course want to get more people in, and they'll make it more attractive to try this. So I'm very supportive of this, and I like the idea of doing the bylaw change now, because at some point, maybe within our lifetimes, maybe, we'll actually go to electronic voting. So let's get the bylaw change done first.
Okay. Okay, I would agree with that last comment, certainly. I think the bylaw change permits us. I'm reminded on any new technology, and I'll date myself, some of you may remember something called VHS and Betamax, and those kind of technologies where they took your first child and one company, and the second one took, the other company took both of your kids, and you couldn't afford to have another. So the technology obviously will come down in price, and I think that's, Eric, what I'm hearing you say. The research has come. So I agree with revising the bylaw, but I'm concerned about what's the problem we're trying to solve. And the privacy issue, when I looked at the number of votes that we went back to, I'm back where I was. I think this is an expensive solution for a problem I'm not really sure is significant. I'd like to see the technology catch up to the need, if there is such a need, and I believe, as Irma said, I think there might be. But I think when I look at some of these prices, they're significant enough to ensure the privacy of a vote concerns me. I think we have a process that works. But the future changes, and therefore I would go with changing Section 8. I'm not so sure I'm for the electronic devices. So, are there any comments from the audience on these issues? All right, let's, there's 2 votes. Yes, I'm sorry. Mary Power from the Advisory Committee. Thanks, Mary.
Mary Power, Philip Housing Advisory Committee. Just a question for the committee. Since we normally have 2-night town meetings, and since this is being televised, I wondered if you could please inform the price ranges that you got for a 2-night meeting, since that's typical in Hingham. I think the numbers you quoted were expressing a 1-night town meeting, and it's important to inform the board and the voters of the potential cost for what's a typical meeting in Hingham.
Right. Thank you, Mary. You did not see this. We got this at 6:45 this evening, and I'll do that. I'll let my town. Yeah, I can do it. The option technology price was $29,000 for the first night, $19,900 for the second. That's at the high end. At the low end, but with only 500 voters, which is, we never, down at that end, was $10,000 for the first night and $8,600 for the second. And if it goes for third, you just add those second numbers up. So if we went with the option technology number, you would be talking a $60,000 price tag for a 3-night meeting. And I think, Betty, I think the assistant town administrator at Wayland indicated that the price was in that range.
I believe he said it was about $64,000 that they had spent.
So it's an expensive proposition for the price, for what we're trying to get, and we have a process that works. But I think, to Irma's point, we should certainly change the bylaw because the technology may change sooner. That would be my...
Are we going to do back-to-back votes on this? Because I'd like to comment on the trial.
Sure, do whatever. Sure, yeah, of course.
I think we should put this in front of the voters for the trial. I do think there is an intimidation factor. Maybe we don't feel it, because I guess everybody sitting up here is not too afraid to express their opinion in one way or another. But there are lots of people that don't want to be seen standing up as the only, and I think the point in Duxbury, the one lone voice, that's a brave person. And if we're going to keep open town meeting, if we're going to invite people to come to open town meeting, we need to make it as user-friendly as possible. And on a go-forward basis, we have a number of issues that are going to be very large ticket items. And to be honest with you, $60,000 when you're looking at a $60 million borrowing, give or take, is not much money at all to get a real vote.
Well, okay, thank you for that. I think it is. That's a school teacher. And that's the kind of debates. Last night, this board was castigated by the school committee because they had asked for 14 FTEs, and they only got 9. And what was the difference? 5 votes at $60,000. So, we watch our pennies here, and that's the beauty of our position. So I'm concerned about that, and it's an expensive issue for, I think, the number of votes that we had, 12 or something over so many years. So it's an expensive solution in looking for a problem, is my concern. So with that being said, I think Irma suggested we take them both, and we'll take them both. So Irma, why don't you read the first one?
Do you want to take one more comment?
Well, one more comment, Mr. Moderator, on...
I'm the chairman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I wouldn't want the moderator's job. Sorry.
The second article would ask for a trial in 2015 of the system, after which we would propose an article at the end of that trial to see whether the town meeting wanted to adopt that process. And we feel that based on what was done in Duxbury for the test of the system, that we can get a system in here in 2015 to test at a much reduced price.
But you don't have that commitment.
No, not at this point, but we're confident that we'll be able to work out a favorable arrangement for a test.
Okay. All right, let's, this is, let me get my note here. That's right, this would be Article FF.
That's the
I'm sorry,
bylaw
Article
change?
EE, the procedure.
Bylaw change.
Yeah, do the bylaw.
Okay, I make a motion to recommend that the town amend Section 8 of Article 3 of the general bylaws entitled Procedure at Town Meeting by striking Section 8 and substituting in its place the following Section 8. Section 8, except as otherwise required by law, all votes shall be taken in the first instance by voice vote or by electronic vote, in parens, e-vote, as determined by the moderator. In the event of a voice vote, the moderator shall call the vote, including votes requiring a supermajority as to which the moderator may declare that the required supermajority has voted in favor, unless a count is required under the following provisions. If the moderator is in doubt as to the results of a voice vote, or if 7 voters rise to request a count, then a standing vote or an e-vote, as determined by the moderator, shall be taken in such manner as the moderator may determine. But if the advisory committee or 50 voters promptly call for a count, then a ballot vote or an e-vote, as determined by the moderator, shall be taken.
Do I have a second on that? I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On the next article, Irma, I think I would suggest that you read.
Okay, let me find it.
It's on the, right here.
That one?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I make a motion to recommend that the town appropriate a sum not to exceed $25,000 to be expended along with such funds as the committee has remaining from prior appropriations under the direction of the Hingham Electronic Voting Study Committee for further investigation of electronic voting at town meetings, including conducting an electronic voting pilot program at the 2015 annual town meeting.
Do I have a second? There being none, the motion fails.
Can I go on record as saying I support it?
You did. You made
did.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, you did. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda deals with the public parcel on Whiting Street.
Yes. This warrant article originated with the ZBA decision for the Derby Brook development over on Whiting Street. As a part of that decision, the developer was going to give to the town a parcel for public safety purposes. Further investigation has shown that the parcel is probably not suitable for a large public safety facility because of wetlands and the elevation and so forth. There is, however, a two-bedroom house on the lot. That this article, under the recommended motion, would allow the board, but not require the board, to accept that parcel from the developer and look at it as a possible affordable unit to be counted in the town's affordable units. It would take some small amount of work, but either the board could accept it or the Housing Trust could accept it.
Comments, Irma?
Yes, the Housing Trust is going to discuss this tomorrow night, so I'm going to propose that we wait until that happens. And I also wanted to go see the house.
And I'm trying to arrange a trip for the three of you to go, and I just need to kind of get all your schedules together to get you out there.
There was a trip already, a viewing, that's the wrong word.
Some of the building inspector and some
And the
planning
Housing
permit
Trust
people went there.
people. So I look forward to the discussion tomorrow night.
Mr. Healy, any comment?
None.
I have the Vice Chair of Advisory here. If I could just, do you have a schedule as to when you're going to be potentially voting this article if it were come forth? Could you wait till next Thursday?
We are scheduled to meet this Wednesday, the 12th, this Thursday, the 13th. That is our final scheduled meeting because we owe the warrant to the Assistant Town Moderator on Monday, the 17th.
Okay. All right, if that's what I was worried about. So therefore, a tour won't help us on this issue. I understand that there's a tax advantage to the donator on this. Is that am I saying that right? Or no?
I'm not sure. I think there might be. I think the purpose for us is that we were being given a lot. It's turned out that this is a two-bedroom house in a lot. It does seem reasonably plausible if the Affordable Housing Trust, and perhaps you can make your vote contingent upon their view of it. But this is similar to the other initiative that Selectman Lauder brought forward about affordable housing units in Beals Cove. This is an opportunity for them to take an existing house and resell it with a deed restriction on it and add one more house to our inventory.
This can go in the supplement, then. There shouldn't be an issue, because there's always a supplement to the warrant.
There is no scheduled just for the board's information. At this point, the only potential item for a supplement would be Article J, which is transferred to the reserve fund in the event of continued snow and bad weather. At this moment, that is the only item that would be part of the supplement.
And as you know, Irma, all chairs of advisory committees always have that goal of no supplements.
It is a goal.
Greg has made it very clear
It is
he's
a
going to try
goal.
to achieve that.
Well, I think I'm uncomfortable not knowing what the Housing Trust wants to do.
Well, then,
That's why I would make a recommendation that you consider making your vote contingent upon, if you're asking them to do this work, then I think it would be appropriate for you to, if you're comfortable allowing it to go forward, make it contingent upon their vote.
And everybody's looked at it and doesn't have a problem with it.
The feedback we got from the building inspector and the group that went out there was they did not. They did not. But the housing authority, the housing trust was there too, so ultimately they'll have to make that decision.
And did anybody, has somebody gone through and done an evaluation of the property, the house, to know if we've got any problems with it?
Betty, you were handling the details.
I spoke to the building inspector. He went through with the plumbing inspector and the wiring inspector. They identified some number of small problems, nothing major. And I did speak to Land Council on this as well, And she said that, in her opinion, the town would undertake a full evaluation on the cost to upgrade the home and any existing conditions on the property, and the board would not be obligated to act if,
What about Title V?
I really don't know if they've done a Title V.
I think that's one thing that's important. This vote at town meeting gives the board the authority, doesn't require the board to do this.
Okay.
So later, if you're having an examination, Irma, and it appears that it's not right for the town, in your opinion, then you don't have to exercise that.
One of the things that did come up in the course of the evaluation is that the home right now is on well water. It's not connected to the municipal water supply.
Oh, wow,
Okay.
So that
interesting.
that would have to be tested as well, so.
Okay. Comment? Yeah. I think if we, my suggestion, if I may, I think Ted made a good suggestion. If we made it contingent, amend the proposed motion that's in front of us and make it contingent on the affordable housing, if you all agree.
And inspection? 'Cause
Well,
we're
that's
no- we
actually
don't-
going to, that's actually going to be required before we actually close and transfer. Again, this vote is not transferring the property. It's only giving you the authority to do that at a later point in time. So we can condition all those things, Irma, after the fact, but this vote is, I think, implying that the Affordable Housing Trust will handle this. I think it's appropriate that you ask them if they'd like to handle it.
Okay.
Okay.
When these things come up, I think it's important that the town continue to demonstrate its commitment to affordable housing. That is, but we don't want to buy something that's, what's the expression, a pig in a poke?
How about a lemon?
Or a lemon, yeah, that's, those of you who don't like pigs. So if
Pigs
that's
are
the
cute.
understanding, I could support this articles.
I could too.
Is that agreeable to you, Mr.
In
Haley?
the first line, it says it all. We can, but we're not required to.
Okay, all right, so let's see. Paul, you want to
Sure.
take this
Big
one?
font. That the town, one, authorize but not require the Board of Selectmen to acquire from 302, 304 Whiting Street Limited Partnership, parens or the current record owner, by gift or by eminent domain for nominal consideration, a certain parcel of land on Whiting Street containing approximately 41,287 square feet, and more particularly shown as the public safety lots C and E combined, on a plan entitled 410 Whiting Street Plan of Land in Hingham, Mass., dated November 8, 2008, prepared by James Engineering, Inc., and recorded with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds in Plan Book 55, page 211, for any municipal purpose in such terms, and on such terms and conditions, and subject to such restrictions on use, that the Board of Selectmen may deem in the best interest of the town. And two, authorize, subject to a determination by the Board of Selectmen in accordance with applicable law, that the parcel is no longer needed by the Board of Selectmen for the purposes so acquired, the transfer of care, custody, management, and control of said parcel to the Hingham Affordable Housing Trust for the purpose of leasing and/or selling the parcel and the home thereon as an affordable housing unit, which shall be deed restricted for such use in perpetuity.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
What is this for nominal consideration? Does this mean we're going to give somebody money?
Is that for $1? Is that what you,
Yeah, just
you have to have some dollar amount to make the
Does it
transaction
have to
legal?
be a money amount?
Yes, by law, it has to be.
It has to be, okay,
It's probably going to be $1,
okay.
but there has to be a cash.
I don't want it to be 60,000.
Okay. Okay.
I'm fine.
All right. There being no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, the last item, well, not the last item for warrant articles. We have two items, I should say. Betty, we have to open the warrant for article, is that L?
II.
What is that one?
We had another insurance recovery.
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
It's not
I think it's
II?
LL.
LL, I'm
It's-
sorry.
No. II here
It says II in the vote.
is a
Is it
road
00?
acceptance Bearco Park Drive.
Hold on.
It's 00, excuse me.
I thought we were actually just amending the article.
It is amending it. It's just adding a fourth item, which is the recovery for the truck that was damaged to DPW was declared a
Oh, here it
total
is.
loss.
Okay, so the first article on our vote sheet is non-operable, and I'll turn
that's
to the
done.
second page.
Yep, at
And
the
the
top.
second one from the top is Article 00. Is that the?
That's the one.
Okay, so, all right.
Do you want me to do that one?
Would you please? Thank you.
I'd make a motion to recommend that the town revise Article 00 and insert the following: $21,325 to the Department of Public Works for use by the Department of Public Works for purchase of a replacement vehicle.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Let's see. We also have an action we have to take before we get to the bigger item for the evening. We have some warrant articles we need to withdraw. And these are articles that have been submitted, and they're underneath the article that we just voted. So, Paul, if you'd be so kind.
Sure. I'll move that we withdraw the following FY 2015 warrant articles. Article K, transfer from general fund to reduce 2016 tax rate. Article M, Building 179 borrowing. Article N, as in Nancy, Building 12 borrowing. Article O, Town Hall Study Committee design. Article P, Foss Memorial design and construction. Article S, easement next to GAR Hall.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, sorry to keep you all waiting, but, okay, tonight, we're going to take up Article KK. Article KK provides funding for legal expenses, expert witness fees, and administrative costs for the litigation currently pending against the Aquarian Water Company of Massachusetts Incorporated, which owns our distribution system, and Aquarian Water Capital of Massachusetts Incorporated, which owns the water treatment plant. We have discussed during several meetings that the initial study of whether the town should own its water company indicates that we probably should, as long as the purchase price makes sense. That purchase price is determined by the statute from 1879 that we've been talking about. The town to date has put a lot of energy into analyzing the purchase price under that statute, including working with Hingham citizens with various expertise and experience, working with water utility experts, and working with a nationally recognized valuation firm, Duff & Phelps. Based on all of the analysis that we've done, the town currently believes the purchase price for the water company should be, as we stated at the town forum, between $40 and $70 million. That is a lot of money. So you might ask, rightfully, why spend it? And that's a great question. First, the analysis has shown that purchasing the water company brings upwards of $4 million of annual costs that could be eliminated by the town owning it. And yes, that includes the additional costs that the town would have. In other words, numerous costs are eliminated with town owning it. For example, certain taxes, profits, rate case expenses. But a few costs have to be added back in. For example, the costs to oversee the running of the plant, potentially a water engineering company to run it under the town's ownership. When all is said and done, that's upward of $4 million in savings. One of the issues that's come up in this is whether anyone's rates will go up to pay for the purchase. As we've said before, the answer is no. Once the purchase price is factored in and increased capital improvements and reimbursements to the town for all funds expended, the cost of elimination stands at between $2 million and $3.8 million, again, depending on the purchase price. I mentioned as well increased capital improvements. That is because right now, as we mentioned at the forum, the system is losing approximately 21% of its water. It's called unaccounted water. That's something it's called, unaccounted water, and the DEP produces a report which tells us where we are on unaccounted water in the course of the entire Commonwealth. As we mentioned at the forum, we have been in the 21% range the last 2 years, and a question was asked of me at the town forum, is that a goal or a standard? They're 10%. Quote from the report that the DEP produces, the Massachusetts standard is 10%. So well in excess of that. So our system, therefore, is losing over twice that much. Aquarian has told us that they'd have to raise rates to fix this problem. Under town ownership, that is not the case. Significant capital improvements are already built into the amounts I mentioned. And Ed Siegfried is here tonight to give us a little more detail about that number if you'd like to question it. Unlike private companies in litigation, we have to discuss our budget in this public setting. That way, you can know why we are spending the money we spend. Article KK provides the money needed by the town to continue to have the court declare the purchase price for the water company. That is a question that has not been answered for us. That's why we are in court, to declare the purchase price for the water company. The amount for this article is $475,000. That is a lot of money, but the savings and benefits to the town tell us it is money well worth spending. Now, you will probably hear from Aquarian that we are wrong, that we have missed something, that we don't understand the water business. But I know this town, you're all smart enough to know that since we are in direct litigation with them, it is in their interest to try to simply cut off the funds so the court case goes away. That way, they can still send their profits to Macquarie in Australia, they can still charge the 5th highest water rates in the Commonwealth, and they can still lose over 1/5 of our valuable water. Having said all this, I'll ask first if either of my colleagues would like to add anything, and then I'll open it up to the public.
I think you pretty much said it all. I think that the town in the past has shown the will necessary for the quality of life it enjoys presently, and I'm thinking in particular of the train. I always thought the train was going to come, but I'm certainly glad that we fought the good fight and we have a tunnel underneath the square, because otherwise that very vibrant part of our business community would be significantly different than it is now. So I'm not going to comment directly on the litigation, of course, that we're in right now.
Okay, thank you. Irma, any comment?
No, I think you've summarized it. I'm just concerned about this, how large the number is.
That's a good to be concerned. I think there was a chart now. Ed Siegfried is in the audience, and Ed, if I could just ask you, you had a potential savings, I should say, cost avoidance number is the best number. Would you be kind enough to just share that with the public so they understand why we're pursuing this?
Sure. May I?
Please do. This is Ed Siegfried, who is a member of the Water Acquisition Study Committee, but he's been done yeoman work on this.
The numbers that we presented at the town forum, as you indicated, Mr. Chairman, the price range for the acquisition of the water company now is estimated to be between $40 and $70 million. And at the $40 million level, the cost elimination over 21 years is $80.8 million. And at the $70 million level, it's $41.4 million. And again, at those two levels, the annual cost reduction difference available for additional system improvements and/or rate adjustments is between $3.8 million and $2 million. What's built into our model are annual capital expenditures of $2 million a year, plus an upfront $3 million in one-time capital improvements right from the get-go on day one.
And that's with rates as they are?
That's with rates as they are. That $2 million annual capital expenditure spread, per year over the 21 years that we've built into the model. That compares, I believe, to the number that's in Aquarion's budget of $1.4 million a year. And as I recall, the current year's spending for capital by Aquarion was somewhere in the $945,000 range. So it's essentially a doubling of what was spent by Aquarion in 2012 that's in the model. And we believe, the expectation is that with that level of capital, the $3 million upfront plus the $2 million a year, it could begin to address the 21% in unaccounted for water. So does that answer the question?
I have a question. I just happened to think of the question. With the additional capital that would be available, hypothetically,
Yep.
what does that do to our road building budget?
We actually talked to Roger about that. We think it would improve that, because right now, we have aging pipes. Remember a few years ago, we had 4 breaks on Union Street in a short period of time. Those are all road cuts. And while Aquarion has worked with us to try to work proactively at replacing pipes like we've done with the gas company, so that we replace the pipes before the road is going to be redone, it's a little difficult when you have such a large volume of pipes that are significantly older than 50 years.
I can just add to Ted's comment. When we got to the $2 million number, that was with Roger, the town engineer's assistance, because that could be a lot of road openings, to your point.
Yeah.
And that's so you want to manage that. But the state of the infrastructure needs attention. That's the point. How long that will take is the question. It's not, as you know from our world,
Yep.
It doesn't just happen. It takes time to happen, but you've got to plan it to get it there. So I think that's the answer to the question. And I think, Ed, you've quantified it quite well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the public or comments? You may, Mr. Walsh. Wherever you
Either
want.
one.
Either one, wherever you're comfortable. That chair is not wired, I can assure you.
Okay, for the record, I'm John Walsh, Vice President of Operations for Aquarion Water Company, and thank you very much, Chairman Rebuffo, for giving me a chance to speak to you this evening. Tonight, you are faced with an important decision, and I'll put some context around the importance of that decision. As you know, there is another town in Massachusetts that we serve, Oxford, Massachusetts, that is also interested in buying our water system. They're about 4 years ahead of Hingham on this, and the judge just recently decided on the price for the system. It came in 50% higher than what the town had expected. So town officials understand that they now face a dilemma. We've spoken to a number of them, and their dilemma is this. Some of them are not interested or on the fence about buying the water system, but they recognize that what they have planned, like Hingham, is to pay down their litigation debt through water rates. And that means that if they don't acquire, they have no way to pay down that litigation debt. And I think this happens often with towns that pursue the acquisition of their utility. The more money, as you go along the process, the more money that you commit to buying the water system, the more wedded you become to buying the water system, regardless of the price. I want to share with you what I think you should know about a water system before you pursue acquisition and as you evaluate it. And I'm basing what I'm going to run through here on decades of experience.
Just tell me, how does this relate to Article KK?
Oh, I'm going to review. Yeah, this relates to Article KK because I think that this is what the board should understand, that as a water industry expert, what I think you need to know before you make a decision.
Okay, I just let me just say something up front, if I may. We have not decided to buy the water company. What we've asked you and your leadership is the price, and we haven't gotten the price. That's why we're in court. I think once we got a price, as determined by the judge, that will decide whether we will proceed or not. We could settle this right now if you answered a simple question. And the simple question was, what did you pay Kelda when you bought the water company? Then we wouldn't have to proceed with this article at all.
But as you understand, as the residents should understand, you know that that is not what the charter says.
I happen to disagree with you, and I have counsel that would be prepared to do it. That's why we're in court.
There is also, for residents and for the other members of the board, a 1984 Supreme Court decision that clarifies this issue. I'm not going to get into a legal issue here because I'm not an attorney, and that's what the lawyers are for. But if you'd let me finish through this.
Go ahead.
So, I base what I'm going to run through right now on decades of experience at Aquarion buying water systems. We have purchased 50 water systems just in the last 3 years. And a lot of these purchases, by the way, are prompted by state and local officials looking for Aquarion to take over systems that are in need of repair. So these are the basic things you need to know. First of all, you need to look at your water supply. And that means looking at your current available water, what you have to meet max day, average day, peak day demands, and that's what you have for under your permits and for hydraulic capacity. And you should be looking at a 30-year projection of demand so you understand whether or not you'll need additional supply, which can run in the millions of dollars to acquire, and given that this is a stressed watershed, it may be very difficult to get new water supply permitted. I understand from the Acquisition Study Committee that was not part of their charge, but it is something that is important, and every water industry professional would say if you're buying a water system, you need to know how much water you have for the next 30 years. You want to look at your water quality and treatment. This is an issue that has not come up in the year and a half, 2 years that we've been discussing this, and there's a reason for that. Aquarion does an excellent job treating the water at the treatment plant on Main Street. This system I'm responsible for the water supply in 60 towns across New England, and this is one of the most difficult water systems in terms of treatment because there are 8 active wells and a reservoir. The well supplies are very variable, very different qualities. You turn a well on, you turn a well off. It changes what you have to do at the treatment plant. What you need to understand is where your water quality and water treatment stand with respect to current regulations, but you also need to be looking forward at future regulations. Regulations in this industry have increased significantly over the last 25 years. We have to monitor about 4 times more contaminants than we did in the late 1980s. I don't believe you have looked at all at what the risks are relative to water quality and water treatment. I know what the risks are, and we have staff, one particular guy who's got 40 years experience in water chemistry and water treatment, and that person has been integral in making sure that we can continue to meet the regulations. That's a person that doesn't come along with an acquisition. You would need to go out and you'd need to find that expertise. And I've known this guy for 25 years, and he is unmatched in the industry in his qualifications. You need to look at the infrastructure condition and investment needs, and that means all of the infrastructure. A tour through a water treatment plant for 15 minutes doesn't do it. You need to have a full understanding of the treatment plant, its equipment, and its needs. There are 8 wells and associated well houses, large facilities. There's a reservoir with a dam and a gatehouse. All of that should be part of your assessment, and then you should have a 10 to 20-year capital investment plan so you understand where the investment needs to happen, not just putting a number out there of $2 million a year. At this point, I'll address your comment on unaccounted for water. There's a couple stats that you should be aware of. First of all, Massachusetts is unique with its 10% goal of unaccounted for water. American Water Works Association did a survey and found that of 21 states that they surveyed, 16 of them had an unaccounted for water standard of 15% or 20%. I think that Massachusetts DEP has a noble goal, but it is an unusual goal. Also, we've recently completed a leak survey in Hingham and Hull. 12 of 15 of the leaks were on hydrants. The owners of the hydrants are the towns of Hingham and Hull. 12 of 15 of the leaks. And we, by our consultant's estimate, 50% of the water that we found leaking is leaking from hydrants. In the past, we've communicated with the towns to ask them to fix those leaks, and I was not around in the years that that was asked, but I've been told that the fixes didn't necessarily occur. So please recognize that we all have a role in fixing the unaccounted for water problem. You also need an operating plan, and that plan includes identifying the people, the labor that you need to operate the treatment plant, to handle service calls, to handle emergencies, to handle water quality scheduling and testing, to handle your accounting, to handle your customer service. From what I understand, the answer to that has been to hire an outside firm. And to a comment that you made, when I say that some of the numbers that have been provided are questionable, 2 Sundays ago, I believe I heard Ed say that of the $12 million expenses that Aquarion has, you'd be able to shave $6.7 million. And tonight I heard you say $4 million. So I think what would be nice for the community, for this board, and for the advisory committee, we at Aquarion have the bulk of your financial model. We were given that model a year and a half ago. Ed Siegfried and Ted and John Asher went over it with us, so we can see where all of these assumed cost savings are. I think it would be valuable for this board, for the advisory committee, and for the residents of this community to see that detail. It's simple to put it on a PowerPoint slide, so the questions can be asked. Why do you think you can reduce cost by the extent that you can reduce them? Following on from an operating plan, you develop operating costs, and, with operating cost and with your investment plan, you develop a financial plan. And with that financial plan, we find that it's absolutely crucial to put together a sensitivity analysis so you understand that if your operating costs go up 10% or 15%, does the acquisition still work? In closing, I'll say that having been through this process of acquiring systems, if someone came to me at this point without all this information that I just listed, I would ask that they go back and they collect that information before moving forward. If they told me that they had already spent or committed $500,000 to the effort, it would be a different discussion, and it would not be authorizing yet more money to do the feasibility study.
Are you complete?
That's it.
Let me, first of all, I appreciate your comments. You still didn't answer my question as to what you paid, because that is the number one question. That's why we're in court. And I understand you can't answer that question because your counsel isn't here.
I can answer that question. That is not of consequence.
It is of consequence. It is of consequence because your $184.5 million that you put up as the price in a discussion 2 years ago is, I know how you got there.
I'm actually glad you bring that up. 2 years ago, the town asked us to put together a price for the system. We retained a consultant. Within about 2.5 months, we provided not only that price, but I believe both hard copy and electronically, thousands of pages of documents to back it up.
And I can assure you that we've taken that same study and we've given it to others, and you'll hear the results of that when discovery process concludes on April 15th. So that's why we're in court, because I can add numbers up. The numbers, that's what you did. There's no...
Oh, excuse me, my point was that for 2 years, you and the community have had all the backup
Absolutely.
related to that price.
And that's why when you say the numbers don't add up...
But yet your expert is so early in the process that he has a range of $40 to $70 million.
The expert that we've employed, and the expert you'll hear from come April, will demonstrate the source of our numbers. And I think, to the issue at hand, I think, John, what we've migrated to is a debate here this evening about the merits. I understand you're not for sale. You've told me that for 2 years. I also understand how much your rate of return is.
I have never said we're not for sale.
Your boss said you were not for sale, and I have witnesses in this room that were there. Am I right, Ted?
Yes.
How many times did he say that?
Countless.
He has said you're not for sale. We still would love to negotiate, and we would still not like to spend this $475,000 if you would answer a few questions, which you haven't. And that's why we're in court. It's
John, we're not asking a really complex question. We're asking what you paid for it 7 years ago. It's a pretty straightforward question. I pretty much know what I paid for everything I ever purchased. I can't believe you don't know how much you paid for the water treatment plant in 2007.
Yeah, I think you're putting words in my mouth, Ted. I didn't say we don't know. I actually believe that we provided this information as part of discovery. We've provided literally thousands of pages of documents.
64 boxes is what you
We met
provided.
with you for a year and a half. We asked you this question. We have to find out through discovery what you paid for it? I mean, if you want to have a partnership and you want to talk to us in a collegial fashion so we can try to figure out what we want to do, share information with us. Instead, you publicly tell us you will share it, and then you don't give it to us. It's a simple question. How much did you pay for the water treatment for the company in 2007? Nobody buys something in this day and age and doesn't know what they paid for it.
When did you ask me for that information?
I cannot count the times we asked for you. Pretty much every single meeting we had with you, we've asked that question.
And you were talking not
We're
you,
asking
John
right now.
Walsh. I understand you, John Walsh, were not at some of those meetings. So I understand you may...
Well, I think one point that should be clear is you have that number now. So I'm sure we're having this discussion for show more than anything else. You have that number now. And it's not up to me. It's up to the legal system to decide the interpretation of the charter. We can all respectfully disagree on the interpretation of the charter.
So we have to spend $475,000 additional in order to get that interpretation to that agreement of a price. That's what we have to do. That's why we're in court. It's a very simple proposition. The filing is only 6 pages, but yet we've had to expend on the behalf of ourselves and the other 2 towns that are engaged in this exercise that money because you won't answer a question.
That you keep on saying we haven't answered the question. I believe you have the answer to that question. So
I don't know that as I sit here tonight.
Correct. We don't know that. We have documents that we can use to triangulate the price. It would be nice if you just told us what you paid for it. Tell the citizens of Hingham Hall and Cohasset what you paid for it. I don't
recognize that. First of all, this is why lawyers are involved. When you ask what you paid for it, who are you referring to? Because who are you referring to?
What you paid for it.
What I paid for it?
No, in 2007, when McCrary bought Aquarian from Kelda, what did you pay?
Macquarie bought a corporation that happens to own the Hingham Water System.
No, wait a minute. No.
Mr. Chairman, I would just suggest that, a lot of this will be taken up in court. You're not going to get in here or anywhere. This is what we've been doing for 2 years. These are the answers we get. It's just a simple question, and we get, well, what did Macquarie, who are you talking to? What's the meaning of is? We're not there. We're not getting true, meaningful data. So we just have to go through the
comments are on the record. The folks at home will be able to hear them. I think if you want to have a future debate on this subject, I'm more than happy to participate in that. But this article, depending on this board's vote tonight and the vote of the advisory committee, we'll see where this article goes. You made some excellent points. Many of those questions have been answered by us satisfactorily. They are all on our website. You seem to imply we don't know what we're doing. We don't do things in Hingham without knowing what we're doing.
You're once again putting words in my mouth, and
no, you said,
Rebuffo,
no, I beg to differ with you. You did say that. You said, I want to hear, did you look at an operating plan? We did. And you keep referring to the DEP goals. They're not goals, they're standards. Now,
Well, tomorrow night, there's an environmental forum. There are 5 partners in the community. DEP will be there, and that question can be asked of them.
That's very good. Okay, John, I appreciate your comments. Is there any other comments from the audience, Mr. Siegfried?
So I'd like to just respond to one point that John made, if I may. You want? Yeah. As to the 6.7 million that I referred to at the town forum, and the 4 million that was mentioned tonight, Mr. Chairman, let me read what I read at the town forum to clarify. Based on the work we've done over the past 18 months, we have identified approximately 6.7 million in current Aquarian annual charges that would be eliminated if the town were to own and operate the water company. That is 6.7 million out of the total charges of $12 million to the Hingham ratepayers, Service Area A ratepayers, Hingham, Hull, and Cohasset. The 6.7 million in eliminated charges include water treatment plant lease expense and debt service totaling $2.7 million. The debt service is 1.7, and the percent rent charge is 1 million. So that adds to 2.7. That goes away, and I'll get to what it's replaced by in a moment. The return on the rate base of 1.6 million, which is essentially Aquarian's profit. Federal and Massachusetts income taxes, $600,000, which municipally owned water treatment plant, water companies do not have to pay federal and mass income taxes. Depreciation charge of $850,000, plus the elimination of other expenses, including rate case expenses, corporate expenses, shared office expense, Oxford legal fees, customer satisfaction surveys, rent expense for facilities in other towns, water purchase for resale, all of which add another 1 million. So the total of those numbers of costs that could be eliminated add to 6.7 million. In our current financial model, assuming town ownership, these eliminated charges would be used to fund the purchase price of the water company, plus 3 million of initial upfront accelerated capital improvements. Plus, it would be used to fund 2 million annually in capital for system improvements and maintenance for the next 21 years. Plus, it would be used to repay the town all expenses incurred in funding the current legal action. And finally, it would be used to add back approximately $200,000 annually in new municipal costs, primarily administrative costs, such as the building system and office costs. So you take the 6.7 million, and you subtract the 2.7 million of debt service and percentage rent, and you're down to the 4 million. That's where it comes. That's the genesis of the 6.7 and the derivation of the 4 million. As to the financial modeling work, we met with John and Troy Dixon, who's, I believe his title is Aquarian's Manager of Rates and Regulations, on 3 occasions. The first meeting was on September 15th of 2012, October 5th of 2012, and October 18th of 2012. At that point, we delivered, Ted Alexiadis and I delivered to John and to Troy the details of our financial model. So it's there. There's nothing secret about it.
Okay, we've gone far afield on article. Okay, well, thank you, Ed, for that clarification. Thank you, John, for your comments.
Thank you.
There's one other question. Gentlemen, could you tell me who you are?
I'm Chris Mitchell, 120 Percy Street.
Yes, Mr. Mitchell. Could you come up here, just so the folks...
They can't hear you on TV if you're not speaking. on the mic.
Unfortunately, we don't have mics back there. Right here, this would be
Well,
great.
actually, they do. We hear about it all the time. We couldn't hear the speaker.
Okay.
This is my first time coming into this. I don't have any skin in the game. I don't have, whatever you guys are going. I'm just a citizen going through here. My daughter asked me about this, and I have to provide her some information. That's who I have to account to.
That's a tough mess.
It is.
It's worse than us.
I can relate.
We can all relate to that.
Yeah. The one thing, I know there's a lot of money spent, and if it's the right thing, it's the right thing to do. I just was curious about what was spent on the money. I've been trying to find documentation, see if it's online or the website, if it's someplace available, to find out what we spent and just the detail behind it.
Sure. You can look at the town's webpage under the committees tab. There is a committee, the Aquarian Water Study Acquisition Committee, and to the left, when you pull that page up, you'll see a list of documents. Or I think there's a tab that says documents, and underneath that there's a list of, I believe, about 20 some odd documents that detail all the work of the committee.
Everything that's been spent so far,
Correct.
the 500,000 plus. I don't know if you even, you've been talking about what the extra, is it 475 that's going to be pushed out there?
Correct.
What's going to be spending on there. So all the information is everything
Yep.
for me to see there.
Everything would be there. That's right.
Because I have looked through some of it, and I haven't been able to find it, so, but I'll go through it all and make sure.
No,
that,
and if you have questions, please let us know, and we'll
Yep.
try to get if it's...
Don't mean to break up the heated debate that
No,
was going on. I
no,
was just curious.
that's what this is all about. That's why we work the way we do. So
Perfect.
thank you.
All right,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
your question. Okay. So there is a motion on the floor. I think well, we actually haven't read it yet. So,
Do you want me to read it?
would you, Irma?
Sure.
That would be thank you.
I make a motion to recommend that the town raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds $475,000 to be used by the Board of Selectmen for professional fees and costs, including but not limited to engineering services, financial services, valuation services, legal services, consulting services, and administrative services to continue its investigation into the feasibility of acquisition of the corporate property and all rights and privileges, including the assets of the town's water company, now known as Aquarian Water Company of Massachusetts Incorporated, and/or affiliated related companies, including Aquarian Water Capital of Massachusetts Incorporated, pursuant to ST 1879, C 139, or through any other method of acquisition, including any negotiation or litigation, including the currently pending Suffolk Superior Court case, the Board of Selectmen may determine to be necessary or advisable in order to determine whether the acquisition is feasible and advisable for further town meeting consideration.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. The only comment I'll make on this, if I could, this is a very complex subject, and I do think there should be, as Edna English suggested, perhaps another forum where both sides can explore some of these other areas. And really, this warrant article belongs on town meeting floor to assess the risks and rewards of spending another $475,000.
I have a brief comment.
Sure.
When I was running for selectman, Mr. Walsh was kind enough to give me a tour. It took longer than a half an hour, but I'll agree with him that it's a complex issue. I know from my planning board experience of almost 20 years, one of the persistent questions that I always sought to have answered but could never seem to quite get was, what is the capacity of the wells? In terms of the risks that Mr. Walsh referred to, and that there are people that work in that system that won't be available now, I couldn't help but think of Douglas MacArthur and Richard Nixon. They left the stage, but the country kept going. I think there was a little bit of heat in your presentation here tonight that was frankly unnecessary. Yeah, we're in litigation and we disagree, but I think we can take it down a notch here. We just want to get the price. We want to know if the town wants to go for it, we will.
You know, the price is the beginning of the debate, because then the question goes to the town, should we buy it or not? That's a different question.
That's correct.
But the price is going to drive that decision, I would think.
It will drive somewhat, but then it becomes a philosophical discussion on the risk and rewards. But the price will be a big driver.
That's exactly right, but you start with the price. And we found other solutions to the questions that have been raised. So, and we've demonstrated that in our history that we can manage variable projects and do it well. So, thank you for the comments. We have a couple of votes.
One more vote.
No, we have to vote this. We haven't voted this yet.
We did vote.
No.
Didn't we vote it?
Well,
Oh, maybe we did. Sorry.
We did vote.
I'm sorry.
Sharon, do you have a
We
vote
did.
recorded?
Yes, we do. Sorry. Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
We did.
So you have one more vote that I
mind.
see.
We have two.
Never mind.
Two more. There's a malt liquor license and the affordable housing.
Oh, correct, and the Affordable Housing Trust.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Paul, could you do the affordable housing one, second one from the bottom on page 2?
Didn't take my glasses today, that's a mistake.
You want me to?
Am I going to have to get glasses to fit in here? This is like,
That'd be nice. I'll move that the Town of Hingham Board of Selectmen hereby authorize, but does not require, the Hingham Affordable Housing Trust to expend funds to purchase, deed restrict as affordable, and add to the quote affordable housing stock a maximum of 3 units at the Beals Cove Village condominium during the next 12-month period beginning on March 11, 2014. One of said 3 units shall be Unit 4H.
second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
And Irma, would you do the last one?
Thank you all very much for that vote. I would be happy to. I make a motion to approve the issuance of a special one-day wine and malt beverages liquor license to Paul Neat on behalf of Hingham High School Rowing Association for the St. Patrick's Day fundraiser to be held at Old Derby on Saturday, March 15th, 2014, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there anything else, Mr. Alexiadis? Okay, just any selectmen report?
One thing.
Yep.
The one-day liquor license we just read, I'd like to invite everyone to support the Rowing Association's fundraiser. And it is like St. Patrick's Day.
That's a good day. That sounds like a good
You can go
time.
up online and get yourself tickets.
All right. Mr. Healy?
I'd just like to say, without saying too much, that on Sunday morning I received a call from the chief of police, and a very serious incident happened in our town, which underscores once again just how challenging and dangerous the police force mission is. The state police are investigating, as the press has reported. I'm confident that the investigation will reveal or conclude that our officers acted appropriately under the circumstances. That being said, it's a very, very challenging job. We're fortunate to have the caliber officers that we do. Training is something that you just can't get enough of. You train hard, you fight easy. So, my thoughts are with the officers as well as the family of that gentleman. That's all I have to say.
No, thank you. Thank you, Paul. That's well said. It's disturbing when we get calls like that, as we all did on that day, and the officers, they're subject to an investigation, as all firings are, and I think the chief and others are confident that it will be a successful investigation, but we won't know that for another few days. But our gratitude goes out to the officers for responding as they did. 2 pieces of other information. I've asked the town administrator. Last week we voted for 2 additional committee members, and I've asked the town administrator to the FOSS committee performance, the town administrator, if you would give him those names for us to consider. each of you come up with a name to that committee, and since I will not be here, that would be something that you will be dealing with, and and my replacement. And if we could have those and we could vote those for next week. And the second is that we're in town administrator evaluation time, and I need input from both of you on those evaluations. So if you could get them to me this week, it would be helpful so that I can complete the schedule that I'm on. And lastly, I had the opportunity to represent us at the funeral for Ed Monahan on Saturday at 11 o'clock in St. Paul's. It was a well-attended event. Church was packed, but the stories about Ed rang through the ceremony as a person of high esteem and great humor. So our condolences go out to his wife Joan and to the entire Monahan family. And with that being said, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
All those in favor, aye. Everybody have a safe and a happy St. Patrick's Day to you all.